当今全球生产总值已高达近70万亿美元，你可知撑起这夺目数字的背后是怎样庞大又复杂的能源消耗？若有一天能源消耗殆尽，我们将如何生存？
There's a great fear, really, that the world was running out of resources.
而这些能源真的要枯竭了吗？其实没有。解释能源科技创新与重塑世界。专访普利策奖获得者、美国剑桥能源研究协会主席丹尼尔·耶金。
大家好，欢迎收看今天的风云对话，我是阮慈山。在过去10年，当全球的经济在蓬勃发展，在2008年以前，全球的经济似乎每一个地方都有正面的成长，尤其中国每一年都以做9看10的成长速度的时候，大家可能会有一个问题，就这么快速、这么全面的发展的时候呢，有没有能源来支撑这种成长？那么大家也都很多人都觉得啊，我们的能源，全球的能源越来越枯竭。那么在这个问题上面呢，大家可能日益担心。今天我们很高兴能够请到美国剑桥能源公司就是著名的这个耶金就是他的这个人是全球著名的能源问题专家，也是个作家啊。他曾经获得美国的素有文学界的普利兹奖，这个诺贝尔奖之称的普利兹奖啊。那么他到我们节目来跟我们分析，到底能源是不是枯竭了？到底全球人类的这个经济成长所需要的能源有没有其他的取代的方案？那么我们从他的分析当中，我们也可以看到我们中国能源的前景。请看。
1992年，丹尼尔·耶金博士曾以他的大型纪实作品《石油风云》捧得了普利策奖。去年，他出版了新著《能源重塑世界》。《纽约时报》在评论耶金的这部新书时，曾开玩笑地说，数十年来，耶金垄断了关于能源安全和地缘政治的题材，其他作者应该对他提起反垄断诉讼。这个评价或许也是他获得美国能源和增进国际理解终身成就奖的最佳解释。
Dr. Yurgen, you are an expert on energy and the economy. From your point of view, I think the global situation, the human civilization reached a dilemma point that where are we in terms of energy and development?
Right. I think the perspective about future energy supplies and development has changed. 3 or 4 years ago, there's a great fear, really, that the world was running out of resources. I think there's more confidence today in the resources being there, at least physically that they're there. Politically might be a different question around the world, but it's still going to be a very big challenge. We have about a $70 trillion world economy today. In 20 or 25 years, despite the current economic troubles, it could be $130 trillion. And that means that the world's going to need a lot more energy.
So you mean we still have a space between the energy running out and the world development?
Yeah, I think we still have the resources are there, but it's going to also take a lot of creativity and ingenuity to use our resources more efficiently and to continue to expand them and to diversify the type of energies that we use. Still, every year we see actually world oil reserves actually continue to grow, but they're also, in many cases, more expensive than they used to be. They're more complex, and sometimes it can take 15 or 20 years to really develop a big new oil prospect.
So how is the political obstacles among those countries who has reserve and those countries want to reserve,
right,
searching for energy?
Right. The countries that own the resources, they're the ones who get most of the money, and they set the economic terms so that if whatever the price of a barrel of oil is, most of that actually goes to the countries. But it's a negotiation. It's not only a question of what the government wants to do, it's also the question of political stability there, whether the governments want resources to develop sooner because they want the money for their own people or for their own uses. So I think that we can distinguish between the underground issues, like are the resources there, and then what happens above ground, what happens in the politics, what happens in government policies, which have a huge impact. Or, today we see turmoil in many parts of the Middle East, and that's something that can affect supply.
But it does bother you if we concentrate on our energy needs from the Middle East, for example. And now the political situation in the Middle East, everybody knows it's unstable.
Right.
So how we solve this problem? Do we have any solution?
There are a couple of solutions. One is we actually need the sort of machinery if there's a crisis. And by machinery, I mean the policies so that, for instance, governments, the United States has a strategic petroleum reserve. China is building a strategic petroleum reserve. So in the short run, if there's a disruption, you have supplies that keep your country running. The second thing is diversification, that not being too reliant on any one part of the world, but drawing your supplies from different parts of the world. So if there's a problem there, you can still pull your supplies from over here.
欧佩克及石油输出国组织，就是为了维护成员国各自和共同的利益而成立的政府间组织。1960年，为了对付西方石油公司企业再次降低石油标价，伊拉克政府邀请沙特阿拉伯、伊朗、科威特和委内瑞拉4国的代表，在巴格达成立了欧佩克。目前，该组织已拥有12个成员国。
But for the past decade, seems to us the OPEC's not working so well.
I think that's right. I mean, OPEC, after all, is not a single organization. It is an association. It's a club of the oil exporting countries, and some of them think one way. Let's say Saudi Arabia, which is very concerned about the health of the global economy because of their investments, and they're concerned about the long-term market for oil. And then an Iran or Venezuela that wants higher prices and doesn't really care about what happens to the world economy. So we see OPEC itself divided.
You mentioned Iran, apparently they want the oil overflow smoothly, but now because of political situation, the Western world sanctioned Iran. And Iran is not the only country hit the sanction. A few years ago, Venezuela has also been the situation. So do you think it's healthy to use the sanction to keep on the oil situation in the world? So
well, I think, let me say what the thinking is behind it, and then people can decide for themselves. Obviously, Venezuela exports all the oil that they can right now. I think that sanctions are seen as an alternative because in Europe and the United States, as well as other countries in the Middle East, not only Israel, but the Arab countries, are all very worried about Iran being a nuclear power, a nuclear weapons power. And that's what they're concerned about. And Iran's language is very aggressive and so forth. So sanctions are really a tool to try and get the Iranians to say, okay, let's go to the negotiating table and let's work out a deal where you can continue with your nuclear program, but you're not going to build nuclear weapons, because if Iran gets nuclear weapons, then Saudi Arabia is going to want nuclear weapons, and Egypt will want nuclear weapons, and Turkey will want nuclear weapons. So it's a second best solution, but it's seen as an alternative to something that no one wants, some kind of military accident or confrontation. Will it work? Well, this is, everybody recognizes this is a very unusual situation that's unfolding in real time. I think the surprise so far has been that the Iranian oil has been replaced by oil from Saudi Arabia. Also, we're seeing oil production increasing in many places, including, interestingly, in the United States itself. So there's no shortage of oil today, even though there's less Iranian oil flowing into the markets.
So you mean, is it justified if we use a political reason to sanction a source like this, as long as if we sanction Iran, doesn't count the shortage of the oil?
Well, it doesn't. I mean, oil prices have been higher recently because of the tension itself, and there's a lot of language that comes from different countries, Iran, Israel, other countries, that raises the fear that if sanctions don't work, if there's not a negotiation, if there's not a settlement, there's going to be some kind of crisis. And that's what people want to avoid, because once that starts, you don't know what the outcome will be, and could affect the whole region and the stability of oil supplies. So, it's really, these sanctions are really like a gamble.
A country like China, for example, of course, we want to slow down the economic growth under 7 or a little bit lower, but we still have to need the oil or energy to sustain the growth. In this situation, what's your suggestion to China?
Right. You have 20 million, 25 million people a year moving from the countryside to the cities. They need housing, they need transportation, they need jobs. All of that requires energy, so that the energy supplies and energy is very critical to China's future. And I think that's recognized in the policies. So, we see the Chinese electric power system has doubled in the last 6 years. This is an incredible achievement. Not so long ago, China was an exporter of oil. In the earlier phases of the Chinese economic reform, part of the way that China financed the reform was by exporting oil and then being able to use it to buy equipment and so forth. So it's been a big change for China, and I think China has become a major participant in the global oil industry, and I think that's inevitable, and I think it's a very positive thing, because the importance of oil and energy to Chinese economic growth, China needs to have access to supplies.
当今全球生产总值已高达近70万亿美元，你可知撑起这夺目数字的背后是怎样庞大又复杂的能源消耗？若有一天能源消耗殆尽，我们将如何生存？
There's a great fear, really, that the world was running out of resources.
而这些能源真的要枯竭了吗？其实没有。解释能源与重塑世界。专访普利策奖获得者、美国剑桥能源研究协会主席丹尼尔·耶金。
欢迎回来。我们今天和美国能源问题专家，其实他也是全球著名的能源问题专家耶金的这段谈话，他有一个概念，就是全球的能源虽然日渐的储量日渐的减少，可是未必来得那么快的就能够这个枯竭。有很多能源，地下的能源，石油、天然气，还有这个核能，还有风能、日光能的发电，这个都有待人类的用技术、用智慧去开发。那么我们接下来再继续请他就这方面来分析。他认为这个能源枯竭的问题可以经由全世界各种的政治解决，地缘政治来去解决的，并不是那么悲观。
全世界对能源问题的看法可谓众说纷纭，然而毫无疑问的一点是，一切关于能源的问题都是富有争议的问题，而耶金则对一切能源问题的把握持论横平。在新著《能源重塑世界》中，他唯独将中国用了2个章节的篇幅进行了客观公正的阐释。耶金向世界写道，中国时刻的到来并不是洪水猛兽。
For the past few years in Chinese society, we keep on searching for answers for 2 questions. One, we should use the energy more conservative way, and how we can explore or develop alternative energy.
Right. I think that on the first one, efficiency has been a big theme, at least for the last half decade or so, or even longer, because China inherited an industrial system that doesn't use energy very efficiently because it wasn't a big issue. Now it's a big issue, and so, I see a very strong campaign to encourage, push, promote energy efficiency. And, the energy you save, it's like you find new energy. So it's really critical that Chinese economic growth be more efficient as it goes forward, and I think that's been a big concern to China itself. So I think that's a big policy, and it needs to be involved in everything you do, in the way buildings are built, cities are built, transportation, all of those, efficiency needs to be built into the system. And I think that's a big theme, and to me it's striking when I look at Chinese energy policy, I see that efficiency has a very high priority because that takes some of the pressure off the system. And I think it's not just a question for China, it's a question for the developing world, it's also a big question for the developed world. The United States needs to become more energy efficient. As somebody said, that energy is a great revolution, that there's always technological innovation. Today, the new innovation is shale gas. Big deal. A lot of discussion about it now in China. It's changed the energy marketplace in the United States. 6 years ago, no one was looking at it. So I think there'll continue to be positive technological developments in existing technologies, renewable technologies, and people are going to think up new and different ways of doing things. That's why I'm fundamentally optimistic about energy.
How about the hydroelectricity? Because when China start to develop the Three Gorges Dam for those, and it caused a lot of controversy on it, and even the other dams under construction now, it's also a lot of environment said these kind of dams against the environment, and we should not build up that. From your point of view, is this another alternative to?
Well, hydroelectricity has been, one of the major sources in countries of electricity. I mean, in the United States, in the 1920s and 1930s and 1940s, we built huge dams that generate a lot of electricity. Right. In the 1950s. Then environmental opposition makes it very difficult now to build dams there.
Yes.
Brazil depends a lot on hydroelectricity, but even there's much more environmental challenge to big dams. And so I think that's kind of part of a process, that it gets more complicated to do big hydroelectric projects around the world because there's more of an environmental challenge. I don't know what it will mean for China in 5 or 10 years, what the balance is, but the general trend is a kind of questioning of large hydroelectric projects around the world.
And people in China sometimes, or even the foreigners, they don't understand China is still on the shortage of power, because when you go to this suburban area, some of them during the peak time in summer, they still allocate, and those electricity, for example, this area you cannot turn on the air conditioner for a certain period of time. So from your study, how far do you think that China still have to go in terms of the sufficient power?
Well, as countries' income rises, they expect a higher standard of living.
Right.
And so one of the things that people like is air conditioning. Lee Kuan Yew, who's the founder of modern Singapore, described air conditioning as the most important invention of the 20th century.
Right.
Because he said without air conditioning, the tropics could not have been productive.
That's true.
Yeah. So, I mean, we know that it makes a huge difference. But it means more electricity demand. And it's not only the air conditioning, and the traditional things we think of, but as we have more and more electric gadgets, smartphones, personal computers, all of these things take more electricity, and so it's electricity becomes a more and more important part of the overall economy. And if China is going to grow maybe 7.5% or 9%, whatever it's going to grow, it means electricity demand is going to grow at the same time. So China is going to be on a path where it's going to continue to invest heavily in electric generating capacity and transmission to keep up with the demand and the growth of the economy. And so it's not like 3 years we can say enough, we're fine, we're there. It's going to be a long race, not a sprint.
One of my friend, a scientist, he told me China has already developed a kind of a new generation of charging battery technology. They can charge anybody within 5 minutes, but the Chinese government hesitated to make this technology commercially, because one question they have to ask, even though the charging technology is developed so well, but where does the electricity come from?
Right. Well, it's a very interesting story about the electric car, because at the beginning of the 20th century, there were more electric cars than gasoline cars, and then it seemed that the age of electric cars was over, and now they're back, and China, Japan, and the United States are all promoting electric cars. But it does raise the big question that if you move from gasoline, from oil as your fuel, you have to have electricity.
Right.
And if you had a lot of cars that depend upon electricity, and whether you charge them fast or slow, you have to produce more electricity.
Right.
So, it's a big system. It's not something that happens, you just do one innovation, but you have to think in terms of the whole system.
So although the electricity car is clean, but from the energy, from the electricity source point of view, you still come back to the original point. You have to produce the electricity.
That's right. You have to make the electricity,
right.
And you either do it with coal, you do it with nuclear, you do it with wind, or you do it with oil. You do it with natural gas. So maybe it's more diversified, but you still have to do it. Also, the other question, of course, in China is air quality, air pollution, and fixing that. And people want to have their own automobiles, and you have to worry about congestion.
Right.
The streets.
That's especially in Beijing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great to have a car, but if you only can drive at 2 miles an hour,
right.
You may want to walk.
Yeah. So, generally, do you optimistic or pessimistic in terms of the worldwide energy future?
I hope what I am is reasonably realistic. I hope I'm realistic and optimistic at the same time. Realistic, saying that there are big challenges, assuring the energy that the world needs, that a country like China needs as it continues to grow. There are risks there, that things can go wrong, but optimistic because we do see the application of technology we have so that we can continue to supply the energy we need and to use it more efficiently. So, and it's because some people think technology's over innovation. So, I mean, we've had now about 250 years of innovation of energy. I don't see any reason it's going to stop. So another revolution now going on in terms of what's called shale gas and tight oil, and it wasn't on the agenda. So I think there's so many people working on energy questions today, a lot of smart people, and at the end of the day it depends on what's in people's heads, working on it around the world, that I feel that we're going to continue to find the solutions that we need, that the future is not over.
耶金认为，我们过去的由于科技的不足，所以很多时候比如采石油到了1000多公尺以后，就好像枯竭了。其实现在经过各种的这科技啊，发现啊，在这个枯竭的过程当中呢，我们有很多油砂、油页岩，可以重新用这个新的科技的方法去采取新的石油，所以这方面啊，耶金的看法是比较乐观的。感谢您收看今天的风云对话，我们7天之后再见。